welcome to yet another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those of you that don't know about it, this is where I answer 10 questions submitted by our very generous subscribers that they have asked over the last few weeks, or maybe even as long as a month or two ago. So we're going to start with Vigilance's question, first out of the gate. I was wondering, when you call for an emergency landing on a carrier, will emergency nets come up to catch the ship to prevent it from causing more damage inside the carrier? If the ship crashes on the flight deck, will there be a bulldozer that will push it off deck and have emergency crew to put out the fire? So I think someone's been watching the Wing Commander movie, which is kind of cool. So I don't know about emergency nets. I mean, we actually haven't even thought about this side of it. It will probably be more something that we would have working in Squadron 42, because there'll definitely be cases where this sort of thing will be happening there. But I definitely think we'll probably have some level of emergency landings and rescue crew and all the rest of it. So I don't know whether they'll necessarily be nets, but we'll definitely have that whole sense of bringing in your damaged ship. Hopefully you can bring it down and people will come and beat out the flames of any burning parts on your ship. So, all right, on to the next question from Alpha Strike. Will there be server wipes during Alpha Beta? I'm very much looking forward to helping flush out bugs during Alpha Beta, but wondering if any of our work will carry over to the persistent universe, or if there will be a clean wipe before release. That's a good question. We don't really have a specific stance on this at the moment. I mean, my guess is probably we would reset everybody when the game goes properly live. It's sort of hard to say, because I think when we go into like beta for the actual game that the backers will have, but maybe not necessarily for the full public yet, we probably wouldn't wipe that late stage stuff. But certainly some of the early stuff, like the dogfighting module, planet side module, all that, you'll definitely be able to earn some money for winning some fights and doing stuff, and that will be money that will allow you to buy some weapons, but it will be for just that sort of dogfighting test area. It won't be money that will carry through into the persistent universe. So I guess the answer is there's going to be a combination of this. So there will be wipes of some of the stuff, but not all of the stuff, and as you get closer to the final release, maybe some of the stuff you've done will carry over. Okay, on to the next question. Anthemer asks, what order are we looking at seeing the ship models in game? Cutlass was in the latest jump point, so what will be next? Avenger looked almost done in the video, so is that next? Retaliator is a huge favorite on the site, so maybe focus there. That's quite a lot of questions and suggestions there. So yeah, the Cutlass is actually going to be the next ship that everyone will actually see in the hangar. The ship that we've actually been working on the longest outside of that is the Idris Corvette, but it's a really huge ship, and we've been going through a little bit of a rearrange, redesign in the interior side to be able to fit the number of ships we want to fit on the hangar deck. And I'm not quite sure of what the next one is. We're doing the variants on the Freelancer, and we're also going to be doing some stuff on the Caterpillar and stuff like that. So I guess it will be kind of a bit of a horse race between all those. We'll see what happens. Okay, next question. Tsunami Jirai asks, can you tell us what exactly exploration entails and what plotting a jump point will be like? What exactly exploration entails? It's a lot. That's like how long is a piece of rope? So there's a lot to exploration. I mean, it's not just going to be looking for an undiscovered jump point and plotting the jump point and going to a new system on the other side. There's going to be just a lot of sort of mapping that will happen. So even in systems that are known, not all of the space is mapped. So basically there'll be certain areas like on the trade lanes and the general areas we'll pass that will have nav points on and will be mapped to a certain extent, but the vast amount of it won't be mapped. And so, maybe you find an asteroid field that isn't on a map. Maybe the asteroid field has some really good minerals, or maybe there's a wreck. So we're going to try and sort of add things to discover even in known space. So we're really sort of trying to up the amount of things that you can do if you're an explorer, where it's not just about jump points or finding a new system, although that's pretty cool. But obviously that's, we can't do everything all at once in the beginning, so that's all stuff and content we'll build to. And then the other thing I'll say is that we're, doing a lot of work and R&D on sort of procedural sort of content generation. So, I know a lot of people think, oh, okay, all Star Citizen is completely scripted, but or designed or crafted. And yes, it has a huge amount, like Terra and Earth will definitely obviously be pretty much everything will be handcrafted. But to build a universe on the scale, we need to sort of balance some procedural stuff as well as crafted stuff, which is the way I think is actually the best way to build a big expansive universe. It's the same way that we're approaching the gameplay. We can't script every mission. So we're actually building it in such a way that the universe itself dynamically sort of runs itself, and the players' interactions sort of generate a lot of the missions and the intrigue and the action. So I didn't answer what will plotting a jump be like. Well, it should be a lot of fun and very scary and very risky. So, jump point's sort of a rip in the space-time continuum that takes you instantly between, well, almost instantly between two parts, many light years apart from each other. And so the concept with it is sort of to have, I don't know whether it's a space-time fabric sort of, I don't know, big breaker, if you want to think in surfing terms, that you want to surf in, and you've got to hit exactly the right lines, or else you're going to go off track and potentially, get ripped apart or spat out in some random part of the universe. And obviously this will require a combination of some skill, some specific equipment, but once you've gone through and you've recorded your jump, so to speak, you can then turn around and sell that to the government, or sell that, or share it with your friends. And obviously you can name a jump point or a system after you, which should be pretty cool. But it should be like trying to ride the hairiest big wave off the North Shore of Hawaii, but with like cool space effects. Anyway, all right, on to the next one. So KG with a K asks, I was wondering about the $5 million stretch goal, tablet companion application. What tablet platform are you looking to support? iOS, Android, other? So we haven't really thought, I would think by default we would probably want to support both iOS and Android. And depending on the application, we may use something like Unity or something for the tablet side, or something else. So not quite sure of that, but probably the likelihood is support of both iOS and Android. Okay, next question from Akodo. He asks, or she asks, in the early Wing Commander games, when we lost a wingman, there was a short funeral sequence. Will there be something similar when it happens during Squadron 42? Yes, absolutely there will be. I mean, that was one of the best parts of the original Wing Commander, and we sort of took it with Wing 2 and had it in Wing 3. I think we had it in Wing 4. So we'll definitely have the funeral sequence. We couldn't have a Squadron 42 without it. Okay, on to the next question. Revan67 asks, will organizations upon discovering new systems be able to colonize planets, build stations, put up defenses? So that's a great question. That is actually something that we long-term want to do. Not so sure, well, you'll be able to do the fullest of that on initial release. Longer term is to do it fully, but shorter term, we certainly will have some mechanics in there that will allow planets themselves or outposts themselves to evolve during the game based on player action or what's happening in the universe, which I think will be really cool and will fold into sort of my goal of a living, breathing universe. We're already looking at organizations, groups of players being able to sort of buy and build up some industry on various planets. So a certain aspect to that will be there, but to have completely new planets that you're fully colonizing, doing all the rest of the stuff, that is definitely a goal. We are definitely working towards that. That is in the feature set we want to promise, but it probably won't be on the initial release just because it's got a lot of stuff to do with it. But again, that's along the lines of some of the procedural R&D that we're doing. Okay, on to the next question. Alf at Justice asks, will there be short-range voice communication to hail other unknown vessels or call for help? Yes, absolutely, yeah. So you should be able to hail nearby vessels even if they're not on your friends list. And you should be able to put out a global sort of distress call, help me, I'm under attack, or that kind of thing. So I guess the answer would be yes in that. Okay, next question. Big Damn Heroes asks, how is the one server setup going to work with servers being hosted in various parts of the globe? If I'm in a guild with someone from, say, Australia, how would we get grouped together if I'm playing on a US server and they're playing in the Australian hosted one? The thing to remember in our server setup is that we have one central server that is basically the general tasking server, but the actual servers that would handle the local, say, instance information when you're flying in space, you're dogfighting against someone, figuring out when you're on a planet what the other people are doing right next to you, they're actually mostly going to be distributed around the world. So that's where the local instance servers spin up. And what happens is the master server is really sort of the matchmaking server, and it's sort of going, okay, you and you, I'm putting you together in the same instance server, and it has a whole set of criteria when it does that matchmaking. So a large part of it is the friends list. So who's your friends? It's trying to match you with your friends, and also we'll do things like try and have, if you want to do PvP, put maybe some of your enemies in there, people of similar skill levels, and this is, by the way, just to stress, in the case that you're in an area that there are more people than can fit in any one instance, because if there's enough people just for one instance, everyone will be in the same instance, with a few exceptions, but like if someone's in a safe area and they don't want PvP and someone just wants PvP, then maybe there would be two instances, one for the PvP, one for out the PvP. But generally what happens is there's a whole sort of matchmaking criteria, and it's based on ping, friends list, associates, persons of interest, enemies, skill level, and it sort of uses those criteria to sort of match you up dynamically as you move around. Like as you fly around space, you go from area to area, it's matching you up and putting you in and out of different instances, and it's doing exactly the same down on the planet. And so what would happen if someone's in America and Australia, depending on what you tell the game, it probably would not opt to put you together if the ping was high, but you certainly can say, hey, you know what, I want to hang out with my friends no matter what, even if my ping's bad, and then in that case, the friend relationship would trump the ping in terms of the matchmaking criteria. So generally it would sort of default to trying to keep you into flying with people in low pings, but if you specifically say, no, I want to be with this person, it will make an exception for you. So I hope that answers your question, Big Damn Heroes. Okay, on to the 10th and last question. Funky Schnitzel asks, I'd like to know about landing on planets in the really large ships. We already know that ships will land on planets Freelancer style, but what about some of the truly huge player flyable ships such as destroyers or battlecruisers? Will these remain in orbit, crewed by our friends or AI crew, while we take a shuttle to the surface, or will owners of these ships have to be content only docking at space stations? Okay, well that's a good question. We're definitely not going to let you fly the really big ships down onto the planet, so sort of probably destroyer on up will not be able to go down, although, don't know, maybe on the destroyer, but probably not. And kind of what you'll have to do is you'll either have to dock with a sort of local spaceport and then take a shuttle down to the planet, which will have those on some of the very bigger, sort of more busy planets, so I could see it on Earth and Terra, or just take a shuttle down from your ships in orbit and you take a shuttle down. So I hope that answers that question. All right. Okay, so that's another episode of 10 for the Chairman. I hope the answers were interesting and informative for you. I'd like to thank everyone for their support and enthusiasm for the game. We couldn't be doing this without you. And I'll catch you next week. Goodbye.